Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Thanks for tuning in once again. Appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. Yeah. We're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep grinding, even though I got YouTube messing with me. They're not even sending out notifications or anything. It's crazy. I can tell, I can tell when they do it and when they don't. When I got 20 people right now, usually I have a lot of people. But it's all good. We're gonna start anyways. Make sure to like and share if you can to help out. Yeah. Wow. Appreciate everybody tuning in. So we're just gonna go ahead and continue, reading from a book we've been reading from. Pretty interesting records of newspaper articles or any announcements of skeletons that were unearthed from a lot of the mounds or from archaeological digs in North America. Okay, well that's where we're gonna continue. All right. Well, we're gonna, even if we have a very few people, we're gonna get started. We're gonna go ahead and get into the book again. The Encyclopedia of Ancient Giants in North America by Fritz Zimmerman. Forward by L.A. Marzulli. All right. Go right to the book right now. Okay. All right. So this is where we're gonna pick up right where we left off. We were still in West Virginia. So this book goes through many different states. Check out the previous parts. I have a whole playlist called Giants of Ancient North America. If you go to my playlist tab, you can see all the previous giant research we've done or videos, presentations, the ones that I were able to find and put in there. All right, so make sure to check that out if you can. All right. It says here, and these again, quoting newspaper reports or any archaeological historical digs that were announced and what they found. And we begin in Marshall County. We're in West Virginia. It says the Daily Times, New Philadelphia, Ohio. All right. Again, let me know if the music is ever too loud. I can put it down. Welcome. So it says here, November 29, 1909, skeletons unearthed. Remains of 32 persons with their dogs found in West Virginia, with their dogs, buried with their dogs, just like ancient Egyptians, right? Anubis, that whole thing. I told you the mound builders were doing that. They brought a lot of that culture down into Mexico and vice versa, back and forth. It says Wheeling, West Virginia, November 29. Workmen grading for a street at Wardwood near here unearthed the skeletons of 32 Indians or persons of some prehistoric race. George Dorsch, former owner of the land upon which the bones were found, removed a mound a few years ago and uncovered 6 skeletons. Those found were lying in a semicircle around the side of this mound. Each had been buried in a dig beside it and then surrounded with mussel shells and a few arrowheads. Measurements indicate that all the skeletons were those of persons 6 feet or more tall. All right, here's a recent photo of the largest of all of the burial mounds located in the Ohio Valley at Grave Creek and Moundsville, West Virginia. All right, that's from his other book. It says here, Charleston Daily Mail, October 22nd, 1922. Skeletons and mound. One of the most interesting of the 5 state parks is Mound Park at Moundville, from which that city derived its name. Probably no other relic of prehistoric origin has attracted as wide study among archaeologists as the Grave Creek's mound, which has given up skeletons of the ancients who constructed it. Aside from the Mammoth tumulus, itself 69 feet high and 900 feet in circumference, there were originally no fewer than 7 mounds situated in the broad plain at the point. None was nearly equal to the one now standing. and the locations of most of the smaller ones are now lost to all except in a few. Archaeologists investigating the mound some years ago dug out a skeleton said to be that of a female. Because of the formation of the bones, the skeleton was 7 feet 4 inches tall, a 7-footer, and the jawbone would easily fit over the face of a man weighing 160 pounds. That the women of that ancient day were not unlike the women of today in their liking for finery was evidenced by the articles that were found beside the skeleton of what centuries ago was a flapper. 1,700 ivory beads, 500 seashells of an involute species, and 5 copper bracelets were found in the vault. The beads and shells were about the neck and breast of the skeleton, while the bracelets were upon the arms. There was also taken from the mound the skeleton of a man, 8 feet tall, okay? The skeleton of a man, 8 feet tall. More and more, right? You see the trend, right? There were no ornaments beside it. These skeletons were sent to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, and that's why we never heard of them. An 8-foot tall man, 7-foot woman found in the Grave Creek Mounds. Remember what they found in there? With them, hieroglyphic inscriptions, Paleo Hebrew, the Grave Creek tablet. You guys remember? All right. The human bones found at many places near the mound. Human bones of large size have been found, and relics in large number and great variety have been picked up. Many beads found nearby were of porcelain-like substance, and a stone image was found representing a human figure sitting in a cramped position with face and eyes projecting upward, and hair knotted in the back of the head. The features of the figure, especially the nose, were distinctly Roman. It is thought to have been a god. The figure disappeared, and its whereabouts are now unknown. Listen. But until recent years, it was among the relics in the Mound Museum inside the huge pile, which was discontinued some years ago owing to the decay of the walls. One interesting feature of the excavating was the formation of the ground composing the mound. It resembled the surrounding soil and was sandy until depth of about 8 feet was reached when blue spots were noticed. These increased upon approach to the center until they were so closely laid as to give the soil a clouded appearance. Examination showed that the spots contained bits of bone and ashes, which led the investigators to the belief that the entire mound had been built of cremated bodies, which builders piled about and upon the vault of the chief and his queen. Others maintained that the mound was the burying place of a chief and his queen, and that the mound was constructed by earth taken from a large and regularly shaped basin at no great distance from the mound and piled up a shovelful at a time. All right, that's what we had there. And we continue. Right before we continue, welcome everybody. You know, I had a slow start with this video. I didn't get notifications sent out. YouTube's a little hating on me right now. They gave me a warning yesterday. It's a 90-day warning talking about hate speech. Yeah, they took down one of my videos, part 24 of the Chasers promo. It wasn't even the full video. It's just me showing a couple clips here of people talking. It's not me saying or anybody saying anything hateful. It's just history. All right. I don't know why they decided to go to that one. That's been around almost for a year already up. And they also limited and restricted my video from yesterday. Are we talking about the current events that are going on over there in Gaza? So yeah, you know, a lot of people didn't probably get this notification for today. I got a warning now and a strike. I'm fighting. They're really coming after me, guys. So, you know, put me in your prayers, and I just wish the best. And, you know, we keep going. I keep grinding, guys. I don't let them deter me. You know, we're here. Let's talk about something else then. Yeah, they on me, man. So they watching heavily, you know, trying to accumulate warnings and strikes so they can have an excuse to take me down. You know, no freedom of speech, a lot of censoring, you know, no accountability on their part, nobody monitoring them, no quality assurance in their department, right? In their department where these manual reviews, these people checking these manual reviews, adding their personal beliefs and getting all emotional about the information. And YouTube allowing them to just do whatever they like to my videos and give me as many warnings and strikes as they like, not understanding how important this information is and how we always keep it respectful. We try to keep it resourceful, you know, and we show the sources and everything, you know. It's just you can't speak about certain people, you know. Sorry about going off topic, guys. We're talking about giants here, but this is, we do a lot of topics on my channel. In case you're new, you're wondering what is he talking about. But yeah, look at this interesting piece we're about to talk about here. This is not, believe not from here. Oh, actually it is. Let's see what it's saying. But yeah, just so you guys can know, they hate him big time. All right. So we continue again in the book in the Encyclopedia of Ancient Giants in North America. We're continuing. This is part 4. We've done a lot of reading from this book. I'm trying to complete it. It's actually a very long book. It has so many reports of giants. We just read one about 8 feet tall and the female 7 feet they found in Grave Creek, right? It says here Mason County. Point Pleasant is located in Mason County, West Virginia, and is the noted home of the Mothman. Native Americans named this winged creature with red eyes Piasu, which is very similar to the Sumerian demon Pasusu. The mouth of the Kanawha River is also at Point Pleasant, a river the Shawnee called the River of Evil Spirits. So what is the coincidence that it's called Piasu here and Pasusu, and over there it's like very similar, right? Where is the true old world? But a pretty interesting little artifact here, right? It says here 12th Annual Report of the Bureau of Ethnology, 1890 to 91, Mason County. And an all cultivated field, stream with mussel shells are one large and several small mounds. In all those which were explored, there was a layer of skeletons on the natural surface, and 2 or sometimes 3 other layers above them to a height of 5 feet. The appearance of the mounds justified the statement of Mr. Couch and others. At least one more layer had been removed during 50 years of steady cultivation. The skeletons were well preserved, many of them large, in a prostrate position, with no particular arrangement, many of them large. Again, the 12th Annual Report of the Bureau of Ethnology, 1890 to 91, McCullough Mound. 5 miles above the mouth of the Kanawha, on the south side, on the farm of Charles E. McCullough, is the largest mound in its section. In this section, unlike most of the large mounds, it is not on the river bottom, but on a sloping terrace nearly 100 feet higher, and after long cultivations are still 20 feet high and nearly 300 feet in circumference. A circular shaft 11 feet in diameter was sunk down through the center to the bedrock a foot below the base of the mound. A rock heap at the top had been made in a depression evidently caused by the caving of a vault. This rock heap had been disturbed by parties who found a very large skeleton with some stone weapons. Beneath it, sandstone slabs as heavy as a man could lift were scattered through the shaft, and at the bottom enough of them standing and lying at all angles to have covered the vault and appearing to have been hurled thus by the caving in of the roof, excepting the outside covering and 3 or 4 feet at the bottom of soil like that about it, and the stones mentioned. The entire mound was composed of ashes, mostly pure, but in a few places slightly mixed with earth, all very light and easily shoveled. The somewhat sloping natural surface had been leveled up by a layer of clay, then a bark floor laid down, and this covered with a layer of clean ashes over a space larger than the area of the vault, which must have been nearly square, about 12 feet on either side, and placed diagonally to the cardinal points. Prostrate in the ashes were the remains of at least 6 adults and some children, placed parallel heads east. Owing to the condition of the mound at the bottom being very wet, the bones were so decayed that it was impossible to tell how many persons had been buried here. Not a single relic of any kind was found with the remains. All right, moving on to Monongalia County, it says here, the image of a conical stone mound can still be located in West Virginia. All right, This is from Jolie Molina. And it says Staunton Spectator. The Staunton, that's in Staunton, Virginia, February 6, 1889. All right. Okay, what does it say? You speak hatred. I speak hatred against. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. You speak hatred against lies. Therefore, hate is still hate. Huh? Oh, man. Sorry, man. I got distracted. I promise won't get distracted anymore with any silly comments. That don't make sense. Says the party from Morgantown, West Virginia, opened one of a series of mounds in the vicinity of Sheet Neck, West Virginia, with interesting results. The mound was partly built of stones, rising in a conical shape and covered with moss and wildflowers. After considerable labor, an entrance was made in the center of the mound, where two skeletons were found in fair state of preservation, both being of gigantic stature and build. When the men were in full life, they must have been at least 12 foot high. Listen, a 12-foot high giant and possessed of enormous strength, as the size of the bones would indicate, with the exception of the enormous skulls, which were partly crumbled and decayed. The skeletons were in a perfect state of preservation. Where are these skeletons today, huh? What you do with them, Smithsonian? All right. So there's giants all over North America, guys. We know. We're just reading, we're just catching up to what this part of the book. We've gone over so many reports of giants all over the Americas, right? It says now and long ago, history of Marion County, West Virginia, 1969. Near Smithtown on lands of John C. Malone is an Indian burying place located under an overhanging rock close to White Day Creek. A number of bones and skeletons have been taken from this ancient cemetery by Dr. Kramer and others. In September 1882, a large skeleton was unearthed in the district by F.M. Fetty and wife. It was in a sitting position in a rock grave, walled up with loose stones. In the summer of 1883, James Faulkner and others found an unusually large skeleton in the district. It is said to be that of a man whose stature was not less than 7 feet and who evidently belonged to prehistoric times. Dr. Kramer measured the skeleton, found it to be 7 feet 4 inches long, and supposed its owner, when living, must have been almost 8 feet tall. 8 feet tall. All right, 8-footers, 7-footers, 12-footers, 10-footers, 9-footers. This is the general trend we're finding here in the mounds, guys. What happened to all these bones? What did the Smithsonian do to them? Where are they hiding them? Where did they destroy them? What happened? Why are they hiding this history? Shout out to the archivist. Shout out, brother. Hey, shout out to everybody in the live chat. The New York Times, November 22nd, 1852. The skeleton remains of an Indian were dug up at Wheeling, West Virginia, a few days ago. From the enormous size of his skull, his thigh bones, and other parts of the human frame, it is thought he could not have been less than 7 feet high. Most of the remains crumbled to pieces upon being exposed to the air. All right, these are what they're reporting in these things, right? The Western Literary Messenger, Volume 27, 1857, a skeleton of a giant found. A day or two since, some workmen engaged in subsoiling the grounds of Sheriff Wickham at his vineyard in East Wheeling came across a human skeleton. Although much decayed, there was little difficulty in identifying it by placing the bones, which could not have had belonged to other than a human body, in their original position. The impression made from the skeleton itself were measured by the sheriff and a brother in the craft locale, both of whom were prepared to swear that it was 10 feet, 9 inches in length. 10 feet, almost 11 foot, right? You guys see? Its jaws and teeth were almost as large as those of a horse. The bones are to be seen at the sheriff's office. This is from the Wheeling Times. Okay, where's all these bones? The Ogden Standard Examiner, November 9th, 1930. Incidentally, an interesting discovery of a giant human in a mound in West Virginia was made recently by a group of University of Pennsylvania geologists. This find is particularly significant for the skeleton, besides being surrounded by crude jewelry and stone implements, and what must have been woven coverings, was buried with copper and bronze coins, having decipherable inscriptions. Having what? Some old world inscriptions too? They didn't tell you which ones, right? We move on. It says here, Pleasant County. Burial mound at St. Mary's in Pleasant County, West Virginia. The Nephilim, that's his other book, The Nephilim Chronicles. It says here, Ogden Standard Examiner, again, Sunday, November 9th, 1930. Incidentally, an interesting discovery of a giant human skeletons in a mound in West Virginia was made recently by a group of University of Pennsylvania geologists. The find is particularly significant for the giant skeleton, beside being surrounded by crude jewelry and stone implements, and what must have been woven coverings, was buried with copper and bronze coins having undecipherable inscriptions. The mounds of the Ohio Valley has proven that there were giants in those days. All right, it's the fact. There were giants in those days. Out of all these facts, some bewildering, some illuminating, one point seems to stand out, that the race has gone to the species of the fittest brains. The great dinosaurs succumbed to the keen intelligence of the little possum. The powerful human giants disappeared, and in their place rose men of less physical stature, but with increasing brain power. Continuing, it says here, Preston County. History of Preston County, West Virginia, 1882. That they were large is established by their bones. That there were giants among them is proved by the wonderful large bones found interspersed through the mounds, showing some of them were about 7 feet in height, in height maybe, while the majority was from 5 feet 8 inches to 6 feet in height. All right, so this is in this place, but again, in other places, they didn't have anything under 7 feet. Continuing, Oswego Times and Express, November 12, 1883. The skeleton of a giant Kingwood, West Virginia. A human skull was unearthed here with measures 40 inches around the forehead. The skeleton is supposed to have been 14 feet high. All right, so they're looking at the skull they found, and they determined that, the person's height had to be at least 14 feet high because the skull was so big, guys. This is what's being reported in 1883, right? This is what they're hiding from us. The Evening Star, July 16, 1898. 12-foot skeletons discovered in West Virginia stone mound. You see all these reports. Why would everybody be making and lying? All the credibility, all these newspapers would have lost. Like, it's all of them literally reporting this stuff, guys. 12-foot skeletons in Stone Mound. It says a remarkable cave. This is them quoting the report, right? Has been discovered near Parkersburg, West Virginia. The entrance will only permit one person going in at a time, and after proceeding 10 or 15 feet, a large room is encountered. 20 feet square of solid stone. Dates are carved on the walls as far back as 1598. In one corner of the room, a stone door swung on large steel hinges leads to stone steps, which the explorers followed to a room where many human skeletons were found. By the aid of a rope, one can be lowered into another room 20 feet below the skeleton. Wow, chamber. This is like really going deep. I mean, 20 feet is a lot. So below the skeleton chamber, 20 feet below, where fish can be found by the 108 pond. The fish resembling the common perch. Hundreds of stone fish are to be found in the different sections of the cave. These are the people carrying away as relics. The cave is on the farm of B.A. Price. All right, 12-footers. Says here, stone mounds were described on many of the hilltops along the Kanawha River tributaries. And we get another report from the Evening Star, July 16th, 1898. Interesting discoveries in the vicinity of Parkersburg and Sheet Neck, West Virginia. From Morgantown, West Virginia, opened one of a series of mounds in the vicinity of Sheet Neck, West Virginia. with interesting results. The mound was partly built of stones rising in a conical shape and covered with moss and wildflowers. After considerable labor, an entrance was made in the center of the mound, where two skeletons were found in fair state of preservation, both being of gigantic stature and build. So this is literally people copying each other's reports. We just got this report from another newspaper. They're just retelling the story. All right. And we go on to the section of the book where it starts talking about Kentucky. All right. Kentucky now. There's here large burial mound in Kentucky. That is pretty big. There's Allen County. Collins Historical Sketches of Kentucky, Volume 2, History of Kentucky, 1874. After the west side of the narrow pass, and immediately at its termination, there is a hill similar to the one on the east. Here is to be seen a small mound, 40 feet in circumference and 4 feet high. Upon excavating one side of this mound, a stone coffin was dug up, 2.5 feet long, 1 foot wide and 1 foot deep, with a stone covering. The top of the coffin projecting 1 inch beyond the sides. Upon opening the coffin, the arm and thigh bones of an infant were found. This coffin being removed, others of larger dimensions were discovered, but not removed. Many very large human bones have been exhumed from the mounds in this county. Some of the thigh bones measuring from 8 to 10 inches longer than the men now inhabiting the country, right? Adair County, the Newberry Herald, Newberry, South Carolina, February 16th, 1876. Another Mammoth Cave has been discovered near Columbia, Kentucky, which rivals in grandeur the original Mammoth. In it were found 31 human skeletons of gigantic proportions. All right, how many? 31 giant skeletons. The cave has plenty of galleries and many varieties of stalagmites and stalactites. All right. So again, shout out to the archivist, who's here. Yeah, he found a lot of these original newspapers. Just from reading these, I kind of get reminded of some of the articles he posted. They're like very similar, might be the same thing. And again, these massive caves, right? What are these caves really? Right? What's really going on? What are they really finding? You know? Barron County, Canton Daily News, November 20th, 1927. A huge human skeleton found. Glasgow, Kentucky, November 19th. The strange story of how 4 men found an 8-foot skeleton of a man in a recess of a cavern is vouched for here by friends of the quartet, who say they have no reason to doubt the integrity of those concerned. John Nelson and his 3 sons were exploring Harlan Cave when they came upon a skeleton over 8 feet in length. According to Nelson said he believed it was an Indian's bones. Arrows, flints, and trinkets were found with the body. Old Indians living in the vicinity said it was the custom of the tribes to bury medicine men and chiefs alone. They believed the skeleton that of a great man of an ancient tribe. All right. Moving on, Bell County. Senior Daily Gazette, November 10th, 1896. A giant Indian mummy. A mummy, huh? Dug out of a cellar on Elk Well Creek, Kentucky. The Lexington, Kentucky, November 9th. John Winter of Bell County last week, while digging a cellar at his home on Elkwell Creek, excavated a giant mummy. Was that of a man 8 feet high and wrapped in a winding cloth of skins. It was placed in a canoe-like coffin and crumbled away upon being exposed to the air. At the head of the giant were a stone hatchet and a few cooking utensils, a large hollow stone, which presumably contained food. At his feet was a skin shield, which had also crumbled to dust. Wow, that's amazing what they'd be finding, right? Imagine finding that. It says Butler County, Collins Historical Sketches of Kentucky, Volume 2, History of Kentucky, 1874, Butler County, Mound and Cave. On the farm of Judge T.C. Carson, 7 miles below Morgantown, are several mounds, 1 8 or 10 feet high, covering between a 1/4 and 1/2 acre of land. No bones have been found in it, but from a smaller one, a number of bones belonging to a giant race have been taken. Jaw bones would go over the whole chin of a man, or over the whole chin of a man, and teeth correspondingly large. The teeth remained sound, but other bones crumbled on exposure to the air. In Saltpeter Cave, in the little bend of the Green River, a number of such bones were found. All right, all over, giants all over in the rivers and the caves and mounds. All right, Boone County, the Weekly Wisconsin, Milwaukee, July 10th, 1886, a skeleton of a giant found. Cincinnati, Ohio, July 7th, at Petersburg, Kentucky, 25 miles below here. An excavation for a new building has brought to light a peculiar find, it being a strange-looking Indian grave, the receptacle of which had been made of stone and clay formed into a kind of cement, about 3 feet in height and fully 9 in length. The bones were all large proportions, and the monstrous skulls, with teeth perfect and intact, was more than a half an inch thick at the base. All right, a number of copper pieces, evidently worn for ornaments, a stone pipe, and a quantity of arrowheads were found with the decaying bones. The air had scarcely reached the receptacle when the bones broke and crumbled into dust. All right, again, real reports. You can verify all these reports, guys. Boyd County, 6 mounds in Ashland's Central Park. The Courier-Journal, Louisville, Kentucky, May 14th, 1883. Mr. Morgan Sowards, Big Sandy, found a human skeleton in his yard after a heavy rain. The forearm was 6 inches longer than that of an average man. The skull was massive and the jawbone enormous. Around the neck were a number of Indian trinkets. All right. Bracken County, the Bourbon News, June 10th, 1921. Ancient burial place. On the Augusta Chronicle. It is believed by many wise and experienced men that centuries before, the Indians, a race of people greatly superior to them in arts and knowledge, lived here. That such a race of men occupied portions of Kentucky at some time cannot be doubted. We can only speculate concerning the prehistoric people who dwelt here in fable and mystery during the silent centuries of an unwritten epic. But it is certain that our little town of Augusta has a peculiar historic value, for it is located on a large burying ground of these ancients. Right, you guys know that? So, this whole town, Augusta, oh, here we go, I couldn't find my place. So Augusta is literally built on what? On a large burial ground of these giants, guys. Everywhere between the mouths of Locust and Bracken Creek, skeletons of great size and of great number have been found. So many, great number, guys, great number. This is all they hid. When General John Payne dug his cellar, 110 skeletons. Listen, when General John Payne dug his cellar, he found 110 skeletons. They were taken up in the space of 60 to 70 feet. They were all of sizes from 7 feet long to those of infants. Many arrowheads have been found in earthenware of clay and pounded mulch. Some of the largest trees of the forest were growing over these remains when the land was cleared in 1792. The Indians had no tradition about these people. We are lost in conjecture as to who they were and how they become extinct. All right. So if they can't tell you who they are, then how can they tell you who they're not, right? Shout out to Drop Nation. Historical Sketches of Kentucky by Lewis Collins, 1878. The bottom on which Augusta is situated is a large burying ground of the ancients. They have been found in great numbers and of all sizes everywhere between the mouths of Bracken and Locust Creeks, a distance of about 1.5 miles. From the cellar under my dwelling, 60 by 70 feet, over 110 skeletons were taken. I measured them by skull, and there might have been more whose skull had crumbled into dust. The skeletons were of all sizes, from 7 feet to infant. David Kilgore, who was a tall and very large man, passed our village at the time I was excavating my cellar, and we took him down and applied a thigh bone to his. The man, if well proportioned, must have been 10 to 12 inches taller than Kilgore, and the lower jaw bone would slip on over his skin and all. Who were they? How came their bones here? Who are these tall giant people? Found all over North America in the mounds, huh? We're just talking about these biblical lands, huh? Continuing, it says here, Carroll County. Collins Historical Sketches of Kentucky, Volume 2, History of Kentucky, 1874. This is where this is written. You can go look it up. Carroll County Antiquities. There are a number of mounds in the county, but generally a small size. In 1837, one was examined in which were found the skull and thigh bones of a human being of very large frame, together with a silver snuff box made in the shape of an infant's shoe on an elevated hill a short distance from the Kentucky River. And opening a stone quarry, the jawbone and a large number of human teeth were found, and on the points of the ridges, generally similar discoveries have been made. About 4 miles from Carrollton, on the muddy fork of White Run, in the bed of the creek, on a limestone rock, is the form of a human being in a sitting posture, and nearby is the form of one lying on his back, about 6 feet long, distinctly marked. Kendallsville Standard, March 16, 1894. A few days ago, a mound was discovered on the Kentucky River below Carrollton. A party of men excavated it, and digging down for 10 feet were surprised to find 3 human skeletons of gigantic size. They were between 2 layers of ashes, with their heads extended toward the setting sun. The bones were monstrous size, and from the manner of a burial they were beyond doubt a relic of the mound builders, that ancient race who occupied the continent thousands of years ago. The arms and legs were literally covered with curious shaped beads, several of which were exhibited by one of the party who discovered the cave. The beads seem to be constructed from the teeth of some animal and are in perfect condition. Continuing, it says here Clark County. The mounds is set on high ground overlooking Pretty Run Creek and is about half a mile from the road, but easily seen. All right, that's a picture here of a mound. Sorry. It says here Newark. Well, first it says sepulture unearthed, containing the skeletons of prehistoric giants. That's a little screenshot from the newspaper. Newark Advocate, November 27, 1911. Immense grave containing skeletons. Prehistoric race of giants unearthed near Pine Grove, Kentucky. They measured 12 feet long, guys, 12 feet tall. Come on now. Talking about real giants here. Pine Grove, Kentucky, November 27. Evidences of a prehistoric race have been uncovered by Hugh Yates, a prosperous landowner of this country, on his farm, a few miles west of here, while excavating beneath a high cliff on his place. Mr. Yates came upon an immense grave containing a human skeleton. The frame was of a giant proportions. His curiosity aroused Mr. Yates called in some neighbors, and armed with picks, they burrowed their way into the side of the cliff and found an ancient sepulchre, crowded with human skeletons, some of them larger than the first one. One of the frames measured 12 feet. 12 feet. All right. Along with skeletons were found curiously wrought jewels and strange ornaments, while cooking vessels and musical instruments of queer design were unearthed in great profusion. The diggers are still at work and expect to make even more important finds. Continues, says here, Clay County, Fredericksburg Star, July 7th, 1900. Grew in spite of age. Corn found in Indian mound planted and proved productive. Floyd Tully of Stout, Ohio, has received from a Clay County, Kentucky friend an ear of corn that has a history. It was grown from a seed dug out of an Indian mound in that county, says the Cincinnati Commercial Tribune. The seed, which was 60 feet underground, was in a jar, sealed, and was close to a skeleton that measured 8.5 feet in height. We got an ancient mound builder, 8.5 feet in height, with his corn, buried with his corn seeds. You guys hear that? And they actually found the corn seeds and planted it. The corn was planted and proved a good yielder. And the ear presented to Mr. Tooley was part of the product. Mr. Tooley distributed kernels among his friends who will plant them this year. Wow, right? Fayette County. It says here, Henge or Sun Temple, located in Fayette County, had a gateway aligned to the equinox sunrise. It says here, the historical magazine, Antiquities, History and Biography of America, Volume 5, 1869. Extract of a letter from Benjamin Hardin, Esquire, to Dr. Mitchell, dated Missouri, March 16, 1831. Respected Sir, permit me to commune 41 with you on the subject of a natural American relic of antiquity. It is the skeleton of an individual of the human race measuring nearly 10 feet in length, which I have discovered in this western country, 10-footer. Should you think it worthy of a place among the rarities of the land, we be pleased to inform me, having read in the public prints of the last year an offer by one of the learned societies, I believe the Geographical of Paris is in France, of 400 francs for the greatest remnant of American antiquity. It is thought by many gentlemen that this would be entitled to it. Your opinion on the subject would be very desirable. Yours with high consideration, Benjamin Harding. All right. So is this Mr. Harding trying to sell what he found? He's like, hey, the Geographical Society of Paris is trying to give me 400 francs. What do you say? This was probably addressed to the eminent physician so well known in St. Louis. It may elicit further information regarding the final destination of that skeleton and add to the links in the history of a lost race, so often found in Kentucky caves, in the shape of immense skeletons and skulls, in which a modern skull can be placed with ease. The minute record is preserved of the discovery of a gigantic female skeleton, with the skin dried to the bone and entire, the skin still on it, and a stone tomb in the Mammoth Cave. This is what they find in Mammoth Cave too, where the atmosphere will preserve a body like the Egyptian tombs. The details of this female's dress are also preserved. Mansfield Tracy Walworth, Edwarton, November 30th, 1824, or 20 years after the 1700s, all right? That's how old that report is. Interesting to find the original to see what they're saying, right? Gonna look into that. Continue, says here, the Hartford Republican, Hartford, Kentucky, December 18th, 1891. The skeletons of an Indian giant, 8 feet high, has been found in Fayette County. All right, and that's all they reported. There we got another giant here. It says Greenup County. It says burial mounds surrounded by a deep ditch or henge as an extension of the Portsmouth, Ohio ceremonial earthwork complex. So it says here, Bluffton Chronicle, Bluffton, Indiana, October 3, 1894. A giant remains found, Portsmouth, Ohio. Now we got in Ohio, back in Ohio. We've read a lot in Ohio already. Said the skeleton of a man 7 feet in height was found under an old oak on Pete Thompson's place a few miles below this city in Kentucky. Oh, okay, in Kentucky. The skeleton evidently belonged to a prehistoric race that drew up the earthwork still visible in that place and known as the Old Fort. A crown of beaten sterling silver encircled the head, and there were many other evidences of the princely character of the deceased. He was royal. The find is considered a great one, as the skeleton's position under the tree proves that it must have been entombed many hundreds of years ago. So before the tree was there, an exploring party of archaeologists will be on the ground, and the details of the discovery will be sent to the Smithsonian Institution. And that's why we don't know nothing about this, guys, because they were sent to the Smithsonian Institution And they're the gatekeepers who hid all these bones and then lied and said they weren't real. Oh, we never heard of them. We never saw it. Oh no, nobody ever called us. We were never there. Nope, they lying. Nope, we weren't there. Nope, nope. They got so many reports saying, hey, we're gonna send this to the Smithsonian, right? All these newspapers, all these archaeologists, all these geologists saying, hey, we're gonna send this to the Smithsonian. And now they're all liars, right? San Francisco Morning Call, October 1st, 1894. The skeleton of a human giant. Portsmouth, Ohio, September 30th. The skeleton of a prehistoric giant has been exhumed in Kentucky, 12 miles below the city. The skeleton is 8 feet in height and 4 feet across the shoulders. 8 feet tall, huh? 8 feet tall. Harlan County. Collins Historical Sketches of Kentucky, Volume 2, History of Kentucky, 1874. Harlan County Antiquities. The first courthouse in Harlan County was built upon a mound in Mount Pleasant. You hear that? Their town court, their courthouse was built on a mound. They built on a mound. How many times did they do this? On Mount Pleasant. You sure that building wasn't there already? Upon which in 1808, the largest forest trees were growing. In August 1838, a new courthouse was erected upon the same mound, requiring a deeper foundation and more digging. With these discoveries, human bones, some small, others very large, indicating that the bodies had been buried in a sitting posture, several skulls with most of the teeth fast in their sockets and perfect, the skull of a female with beads and other ornaments, which apparently hung around the neck. Close by the larger bones was a half-gallon pot, superior in durability of modern ware, made of clay and of pearl winkles pounded of powder, glazed on the inside, and the outside covered with little rough knots, nearly an inch in length. Excavating one side of the mound, a stone coffin was dug up 2.5 feet long, 1 foot wide and 1 foot deep, with a stone covering the top of the coffin, projecting 1 inch beyond the sides. Upon opening the coffin, the arm and thigh bones of an infant were found in it. The coffin being removed, others of larger dimensions were to be discovered, but were not removed. Many were very large human bones, have been removed from mounds in this county, some of the thigh bones measuring from 8 to 10 inches longer than the race that is now inhabiting the county. You know, says here Jefferson County. New York Times, February 8th, 1876. New York Times, right? The early American giant. The public will be unpleasantly reminded of this callous indifference to the future of the part of prehistoric Americans by the recent discovery of 3 unusually fine skeletons in Kentucky. A Louisville paper asserts that 2 men lately undertook to explore a cave, which they accidentally discovered not far from that city. The entrance to the cave was small, but the explorers soon found themselves in a magnificent apartment, richly furnished with expensive and fashionable stalactites. In a corner of this hall stood a large stone family vault, which the 2 men promptly pried open. In it were found 3 skeletons, each nearly 9 feet in height. The skeletons appeared to have somewhat frightened the young men, for on seeing so extensive a collection of bones, they immediately dropped their torch and subsequently wandered in darkness for 36 hours before they found their way back to daylight and soda water. Wow, they got lost. They got so scared. Now, it is evident that these gigantic skeletons belong to men very different from men of the present day. A skeleton 8 feet and 10 inches in height would measure fully 9 feet when dressed and even in a thin suit of flesh. The tallest 9-foot giant of a traveling circus is rarely more than 6 feet 4 inches high in private life and without his boots, and even of this quality are scarce and there. The 3 genuine 9-foot men of Kentucky, 9-footers, guys, must have belonged to a race that is now entirely extinct, and hence it would be a matter of very great interest if we could learn who and what they are, or they were, right? What they were, who they are, huh? They were. What do you mean what they were? Yeah. Hey, shout out if you just joined us. We're going over the Encyclopedia of Ancient Giants in North America, just continuing where we left off in previous parts. Again, we're just reading all these reports, archaeological digs that were done, reported, written about in North America. There's so many. We've gone over so many already in this book, and we got still a whole lot more to go on this book. It's just, it's just beginning. Like, we're not even in the middle of the book. All right. So YouTube did not promote this video. They didn't send nobody notifications. I would appreciate it if you guys make sure to share the video, like the video, share it everywhere, because I don't get help like that. Like other people's channels, the algorithms and everything, they get help, they get promoted. We're shadow banned here, man. We've been struggling for 8 years, but we're growing slowly but steady. All right, they can't stop the truth. Things like this is what they don't want people to be thinking about. You know, says here, Kenton County, a gigantic skeleton unearthed. Cincinnati, August 16th. Jacob Burke of Bromley, Kentucky, a suburb of Cincinnati, while at work today in the sand pits near Bromley, unearthed the skeleton of a man of gigantic proportions. Further excavating discovered two more skeletons of the same size. The skeletons were in an excellent state of preservation. They averaged 7 feet in height. One brick at a time, you know how we do. Lawrence County, History of Kentucky, Volume 1, 1922. Above the mouth of Big Point Creek, there is a river bottom extending up the Louisa River about a mile. There are mounds covered with large trees when first seen by European men. The original public highway up the Big Sandy was laid out on the north side of the second mound. In matching this public road, the mound was cut sand, the skeletons of a man of large size was found. It was enclosed in a sort of rude box made by placing flat, thin river stones about and over it. It says Lyon County, Kentucky, New Era, October 17th, 1902. Huge jawbone found under the new cell houses at Eddyville prison. In Holy Writ, we are told that there were giants in those days. Some of these giants evidently found their way to Kentucky. Some of them eventually found their way to North the Americas, right? They were here and died here, says the Grayson Gazette. So where do they come from then? What are you trying to say, man? America's a true old world. Been had giants here. Says Sheriff W.E. Cummins exhibited to us the lower jawbone of a human being who must have been of extraordinary size. The jawbone was recently sent to him by Honorable Charles A. Nelson from Eddyville. It was found there by workmen while quarrying rock for the new cell house for the Eddyville Penitentiary and was found connected with the Quantity mills at Due Earth. Trees 3 feet in diameter were growing on the ground above it. The bone is very large and will slip over the jawbone of the largest man who can be found in this country. Some think it belonged to an Indian of a large stature or to some giant who lived, moved, and had his being in some prehistoric age. All right. Yeah, just talking about the ancient giants of North America. This image right here says two sun temples located south of Richmond, Kentucky. The largest was 666 feet in circumference. Remember, we broke that down in another book. The measurements were these weird, specific numbers they were giving us, right? That number right there makes you think, right? The Petersburg Journal, Petersburg, Ohio, May 2nd, 1872. The other afternoon, some gentlemen, while prospecting for coal about a mile from Rockport, Kentucky, came upon the complete skeleton of a human body, gigantic in size. It was found about 6 feet below the surface of the earth. The forearm bone from elbow to wrist measured 42 inches, and the thigh bone from the hip to the knee measured 42 inches. The lower jaw bone completely covered the whole lower portion of an ordinary sized human face. All right. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Hold on. I got lost. Where we at? Second. Okay. There's here a burial mound located at a short distance from the two sun temples south of Richmond. All right, again, mounds and giants all over the place, right? There's here Collins Historical Sketches of Kentucky, Volume 2, History of Kentucky, 1874, Madison County. Ancient Cemetery, a race of giants on 5 high points on Caldwell Campbell's farm, and on a farm of Samuel and Walker Madison, adjoining 8 miles southwest of Richmond, are burial grounds of prehistoric inhabitants, and all embracing fully 3 acres. On one part, about 1.5 acres, have been discovered the skeletons of giants, the femur, tibia, skull, and inferior maxillary bones so large when compared with the size of the late John Campbell, himself 6 feet 4 inches high, as to indicate a race 7 to 8 feet high. John Campbell slipped the inferior jawbone of one entirely over his own flesh and all. Continuing, it says here the Richmond Climax, Richmond, Kentucky, August 6, 1921. Because when our forefathers came to Kentucky 130 years ago, they found scattered throughout the borders numerous earth mounds. The Indians who then hunted in Kentucky told the European people that they know nothing of who these mounds were built or who constructed them. The Indians said that their fathers had told them that they had been built by a pale race. According to them, I want to see the primary source. Because a lot of these, he's one of them, these New Age, Atlantis, ancient America researchers like to make all the advanced civilized people of America, so-called white, and including the whole world. Anybody civilized, anybody who's a giant, they're all white, all pale. All right. I believe these giants were of different shades, different complexions. Okay. So, different from the Indians, with whom the Indians had fought and over whom they had finally prevailed. As these mounds were the only sure evidences of this former race, these people were called mound builders, and by this name we knew them in the succeeding years. 2 miles south of Waco, on a high ridge which is said to be the highest point in Madison County outside of the mountain spurs, on the property of Mr. John Moberly, I found a mound 90 feet in diameter, and although over its surface cultivation had gone on for 20 or 30 years, it was still 12 feet in height. This mound Mr. Moberly kindly consented that I might demolish. He himself had dug into it several years ago, some 3 or 4 feet, but without discovering anything of consequence. A few arrowheads were his only finds. I first ran a trench 3 feet deep through the mound, due north and south. From the top of the mound on the north side, there was a peculiar white clay not known in the immediate locality, covering a space about 7 feet long and 2 or 3 feet wide. This clay was used from the top to the bottom of the mound. After following it all the way down to a level with the surface of the surrounding ground, we discovered a skeleton in a fair state of preservation. From all the surrounding conditions of the body must have that a man of eminence and renown. The column of white clay used to the bottom of the top of the mound would indicate that the body over which it had been packed, it must have been one of more than usual importance, and the bones which will be hereafter described showed that the man was a person of tremendous stature, and was much larger than the other persons whose remains were interred in this mound. Not being up in anatomy, I submitted the bones to Doctors Coombs and Cecil and others, and they all concurred with me in the opinion that I had unearthed the bones of a man who in life must have been very tall and very large, and to be at least of the height indicated. Both the upper and lower teeth were greatly worn, and it was also evident that when this giant was interred, he had lived out a long life. A long life, huh? We're talking about antediluvians. Montgomery County, burial mound located in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. All right. New York Times, April 2nd, 1872. Gigantic human remains found The Louisville Courier Journal, however, tells a bigger story. Thus, workmen in the new fire cistern in Jeffersonville, Kentucky, exhumed 12 foot from the surface a part of the skeleton of a giant at least 12 feet high, a giant that's at least 12 feet tall. 12 footers, guys. What are we reading about today, man? The skull was badly broken by the workmen, but sufficient of the jaw and face bones were saved to show that it was the remains of a monstrous-sized human being. A shin bone was dug up, which measured near 3 feet in height. Near 3 feet in height, just the shin alone. Wow. Can you guys imagine a 12-footer, these days walking around, or a bunch of them? Can you imagine that? Like, we're talking about double the size of a 6-footer today. And 6-footers are pretty, an average, they appear taller than most people. We're talking about 7-footers now, that's a whole other thing. Like some of the basketball players, but now imagine a 12-footer. Again, this is amazing. This is stuff they hid from us. Literally giants, guys, like the ones we read about in mythology and the Bible and all that. They weren't mythology. These were real people. Now, don't make them into monsters or anything like that, or cyclops or anything. We don't know that. That's conjecture. They could have looked like regular folks. They could have looked white. They could have looked so-called black. They seem to have the same bone structure as modern type humans. They're just bigger. It says here, Ohio County, the Petersburg Journal, Petersburg, Ohio, May 2nd, 1872. The other afternoon, some gentlemen, while prospecting for coal about a mile from Rockport, Kentucky, came upon the complete skeleton of a human body, gigantic in size. It was found about 6 feet below the surface of the earth. The forearm bone from elbow to wrist measured 42 inches, and the thigh bone from the hip to the knee measured 42 inches. The lower jawbone completely covered the whole portion of an ordinary-sized human face. All right. So we do get like duplicate reports in different newspapers, right? They just talk about the same thing. It says here, Collins Historical Sketches of Kentucky, Lewis Collins, 1874, Ohio County. It says a giant in 1872 in prospecting for coal in Ohio County, about a mile from Rockport, the complete skeleton of a human body of gigantic size was found 6 feet below the surface. The lower jawbone, when fitted over the lower portion of the man's face in the party of explorers, completely covered it. The thigh bone from hip bone to the knee was 42 inches long, and the forearm bone from the wrist to elbow measured 22 inches. This would indicate a giant over 10 feet tall. Over 10 feet tall. Ohio County, Kentucky, in the olden days by Harrison D. Taylor, 1926. The late Robert Render Sr., a gentleman well known and highly esteemed for his many virtues, used to relate finding a mound or grave near Green River, in which were bones of enormous size. A human leg bone, when stood on the floor beside his leg, when sitting down, would reach to the top of his knee, and a jawbone which would fit loosely over his underjaw. Mr. Render was a man considerably over medium height, measuring over 6 feet and having large bones and it is estimated that the old bones belonged to a human one-third larger than Mr. Render, who ranked among the largest men in this country. It is now a subject of regret that this grave had not been thoroughly examined by scientific men and a full skeleton procured of this semi-giant race. Pike County, Marietta Daily Leader, Marietta, Ohio, April 21st, 1897. Cynthia, Kentucky, April 20th. John Hill, a prominent farmer of this country, while digging a milk house Tuesday, found a skeleton 7 feet tall. It is claimed by the older citizens that locality that the remains were those of an Indiana chief, as many Indian trinkets were found in the grave, which was walled with rock. All right. Continuing on, Simpson County. Collins' Historical Sketches of Kentucky, Volume 2, History of Kentucky, 1874, Simpson County, Antiquities of a Giant, or a Giant. From a mountain, the farm of Eden Burrows near Franklin were exhumed in May 1841 at a depth of over 12 feet. Several human skeletons, one of extraordinary dimensions, was found between what appeared to have been, two logs covered with a wooden slab. Many of the bones were entire. The under jaw bone was large enough to fit over the jaw, flesh and all, of any common man of present day. The thigh bones were full 6 inches longer than those of any man in Simpson County. Teeth, arms, ribs, and all gave evidence of a giant of a former race. Around the neck was a string of copper beads and one bead of pure silver, all perfectly preserved. Another skeletons of smaller dimension had around his neck a string of beads about 100 in number. The string, which had held the beads, was still apparent, though time had destroyed its consistence. All right. There's here Todd County. Counties of Todd in Christian Kentucky, historical and biographical, 1872. These bold letters, these are the sources, guys. That's literally what they're called. There are numerous mounds in Todd County, but to which of these classes they should be assigned, it is difficult to determine from the meager accounts to be gained from them. But one or two have been examined, and these with insufficient care. Skeletons of extraordinary size were found, the skulls of which were passed over the head of a large man and rested easily upon his shoulders, right? You see that? Like putting on a skull over your head. We're talking about these giant skulls, and it goes on like a helmet or just like a mask or just like a bag. It like fits, like it goes all the way down to your shoulders. Imagine that. That's a huge skull. Wow. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hold on, guys. Let me just see something real quick. Okay. We're gonna leave this for the next installment. Yeah, because that's probably a long chapter. We're gonna get into some more findings of pygmies. You guys see that, right? Some more findings of pygmies. All right, we're gonna get into. Hold on, let me just show you guys something. All right. It's been about an hour and 15, I get a lot of new people, guys. They don't sit through long videos. They don't even make the time. Trying to get these people to get used to it. So we're trying to do decent length videos, not exaggeratedly like 3 to 4 hours long, but no, hold up, let me just. Right. So 1 second. So if you guys see, if you go into my home page, you will see all these tabs here. If you click on playlist, you're gonna see all my playlists, all right? All my different playlists. There is one right here. It says Giants of Ancient America, right? And then you have all the previous parts and any other video I've done on giants, even the newspaper reports from the archivist and other videos I have, other sources we've gone over. Even Tuscaloosa, some history on Chief the Giant. He was a giant. He was like 7 or 8 foot tall. Chief Tuscaloosa or Black Warrior, that's what it means, right? So if you want to get all the previous readings of this book, if you missed it, make sure to catch up on the playlist. All right. Make sure to catch up on the playlist. We have a lot of research actually on giants, and it's a lot more coming. All right. Just want to make sure that we don't make these videos too long, so we can get people who are interested in this type of study to actually sit down, make the time. All right, like, okay, I can watch it. It's about an hour. All right, but there's so much. I want to just keep going with the videos. Read a couple pages, couple chapters here and there. So we can get through it. We'll do a whole video on the pygmies, since we have a whole chapter on this video. And we're talking about pygmies. Yeah, they found people who were 2-3 feet tall, very small, 2-3 footers, and these were adults. They found massive graves of pygmies here. So pygmies are not just from Africa, as they like to make us think. Where are those pygmies from in Africa really coming from? No, sir. But yeah, guys, if you didn't get a notification, it's because right now I'm literally shadow banned. They got me on a warning for 90 days until May. They got me on a copyright strike that I got until April. I got another 50 days of that. They removed the video, one of my Chasar, part 24 of the Chasar series. It was just a promo. They removed it completely. They gave me a warning talking about hate speech. I reviewed the promo, had nothing wrong with it. I'm not gonna fight it because they just want me to, I can't. I escalate these things and they go through manual reviews, and then that's it. That's the final answer. There's no more escalation. All right. So appreciate if you guys share the videos, understand what I kind of go through, help me get this word out. Oh, they've been found out. Instinct. They know about the series. They know what we've been doing in the last 8 years. It's not just those videos, but those videos literally expose them very detailed. So of course they're gonna try to hate me on those and punish me and scare me and say, hey, don't do that, don't do this. They can't stop the movement, but they can't stop me from providing food for my family, in which I would have to kind of like look for a whole other option and system if they ever did take me out of YouTube, which I don't mind doing. I mean, I started from nothing. I've started over so many times and built up myself and so many times. So that ain't nothing. It's just don't want to have to go through that. You know what I mean? For my family's sake too. So, help me out if you can. Share the video, like it. Make sure I get the views because they don't promote my videos, guys. They don't. It's not part of your general algorithms. You know, let the water flow. Let the water flow. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you very much. Yeah. But I hope you enjoyed at least some of the reading today. Again, these are. I might actually drop another video later on, like I did last night. I did one very late. I dropped a little. Make sure to check that out because that one didn't get promoted as well. All right. That was my video from last night. A Portuguese slave in Mexico. We're talking about Margarita de Souza, listed as black, mulatto, all that. And she was born in Portugal. None of her being from Africa. Her dad is Portuguese merchant, most likely Sephardic Jew. Her mom was born in the Madeiras Island. That's not Africa. So anybody saying that she's still African in any way, that's conjecture. So you got to prove that. Check out her story. She went through a lot, slavery and also sexual abuse, and she had to fight for that. She had to fight for freedom in so many different ways. These are pretty cool stories just to understand how complex the real history of slavery in America was and who was really involved. Right. But yeah, again, this was the book, The Encyclopedia of Ancient Giants in North America. All right, we got a little bit from West Virginia and Kentucky. We got a lot of reports. What we're talking about? 9-footers, 10-footers, 12-footers, a 15-footer. I think we read about today. Man, wow. I hope it starts adding up. If you guys go to the playlist, you start seeing all these reports. If you watch my playlist in order, if you just bench watch it and you see, man, how come this ain't like mainstream fact? Like it's so much archaeological evidence. Why is this still a myth? Why is it treated like a fairy tale? What are they really hiding? What don't they really want us to know? Why would knowing about ancient giants in America, you know, why would they be so worried about that? Think about that, guys. Think about that. It all fits into what we've been learning about America being true old world. Just think about that. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You can't find out there was actually giants here. Oh no, because that's gonna lead you closer to the promised land. The promised land. Yeah, America. Anyways, appreciate you guys taking the time for coming, hanging out with me for this last hour. Uh, also, I'm gonna go do a little cardio. Wednesdays I go on and play a little scrimmage of soccer. 6-on-6, indoor, artificial grass, rug. Pretty cool. I get to do a little exercise, run around with the elders, the experienced elders. They're really good players. Like these guys are really good. And I'm 43, so I'm considered an elder now in soccer. Just in soccer, right? When you're 40s in soccer, you're old. But we not old. We play with the best of them. We play with the 20-year-olds and all that. They ain't seeing us. But I'm gonna go do that. Probably get home after that. And yes, keep working. Cause as for me, it's nonstop, guys. I gotta always keep working because I don't know what video they're gonna allow, what video they're gonna block, what video they're not gonna let me monetize. I gotta have options. It kind of sucks to be pressured like that, now, but I take on the challenge and I try not to just rush it and just upload any little thing. I'm trying to upload things still that can benefit your learning, your education, and yourself in some way, and it helps people understand real history. But yeah, that's the story of my life right now with YouTube, with the Chazons. They mad at me, but I had to do it, man. It's been a while, man. It's been a while since I they like, oh, he's been quiet. Good. I think he learned his lesson. Well, it was due because I'm telling you, this guy made threats. This guy made threats. Trump made threats for this Saturday. He said, yo, you got till Saturday till 12 o'clock or else all hell's gonna break loose. That's what Trump said. Who you threatening? Who you talking to? The little kids over there, the women? Who you talking to? You destroyed the whole strip. It's a demolition site. The whole strip is a demolition site. What hostages are you talking about? They obviously not being held there. Or if they are, they must be really, really underground bunkers or somewhere, like really underground. Like, you know, I'm just saying, I just wanted to bring that up again. And I know I'm off topic right now. You're like, what is he talking about? Check out my Chazar series. Check out my video from yesterday. You'll see. Check out my little short, the promo for part 34 of Don't Mention the Chazars. Man, that's a deep one. We're talking about JFK. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny to me because I see he got a Kennedy in his cabinet, right? Same guy supports most likely the people who got his father. The person he's working for now supports the people who went after his dad. So I just try to figure out, what are you guys really up to? Are you really about truth and freedom and helping people while you're still working under Trump? Like, you guys, if you think that's your savior, just because he's not Biden or Kamala, I mean, they purposely gave us these ignorant people, not suitable for being presidents or running a country on purpose, so we can blame them, and then we can have a savior come and save the day. And now he gets away with everything. He can change whatever thing. He can do whatever you like because he's fixing everything, right? He's fixing the problem that they themselves created. They created is problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution, right? Anyways, we out of here. I'm gonna go have some fun, do some cardio. Appreciate you guys, and just like to support what I do. This is the other thing. I want to give a special shout out to my patrons because you guys don't understand how much you're holding me up. And you guys don't know how much you're really holding me up because YouTube really makes it hard. So I appreciate you guys very, very, very much. All right. You guys do it out of love. Nobody's forcing you. I don't obligate anybody. I don't be saying, hey, donate to me, donate to me. That's what you got to do. Like Umar, right? You got to send me checks. Where's the checks? Like Umar Johnson. Where's the checks, man? How am I supposed to do this without your checks? Yeah, I ain't no Umar, man. No Uber. Umar, sorry. Talking about Umar, we've been working on his genealogy. I've been listening to a couple of the videos where he's kind of laying out who his ancestors are, how they connect to the Douglas line. And I kind of matched that a little bit, but there's still some gaps there. But if I'm able to connect one of his ancestors with another of his ancestors, then he most likely was telling the truth about being related to him, not a direct descendant of Frederick Douglass. He was just related to him. So the ancestor he's trying to relate to Frederick Douglass is actually appears to be, from what I thought in the genealogy tree, is his uncle. Not his brother, not his cousin, but his mom's brother, Stephen Henry Bailey. All right. And that's going to be a future episode on genealogical stories. All right. We got Umar Johnson. We on your ass, Umar. We on your Uma, shoemaker, with your German last name you were born. Yeah. Left wing, right wing, they all from the same bird. Yeah. Follow the bird. Thoth, man. Thoth, hermetics. Yeah, most high over everything. Yeah, Laverne said that was a good video about Sosa. She went through hell and back. Yeah, she did. Her story should have been told, you know, and she shouldn't be Africanized if she's not. You know, just got to tell you how it is. She was born in Portugal. She went through a Middle Passage, but it didn't come from West Africa. It came from Portugal, crossed the Atlantic, ended up in Mexico. That was her Middle Passage. And that was the experience of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, so-called slaves, that they eventually called Africans. All right? We got a lot trying to wake y'all up in certain things. We got a lot of good info here. We ain't talking about hate. We ain't talking about none of that. So, you know, it sucks that they try to label me that. They try to say I'm spreading this when I'm not even talking in these videos. You know what I mean? Especially the Chazar ones. Especially that promo they took down and said, I was like, you guys should see it. You'd be like, oh my gosh, that was literally a personal attack. And you went to a video from a year ago. Because you can't find and you couldn't find anything in the recent one. So you went and looked and looked and looked, and finally you probably saw something on one that you can fall back on if in case I escalate. Oh no, look, this is hate speech. Because somebody's saying, hey, a specific type of people control the government. Because when you say a specific type of people control the government and everything that happens in the Americas and UK and all these and all around the world, basically, then that's hate speech when you're exposing the monopoly, the control that they have. Wake up. We might not have YouTube one day. This is not just entertainment. Are you not entertained? Again, this is not just entertainment, man. I'm not here to entertain you guys. Good thing is we got our Patreon to fall back on just in case. Don't worry, like I ain't going nowhere, guys. Like, you know, we'll bounce back in any way, but just telling you, that's what they're working on. But I've been working hard all these years to make sure they don't get me like that. I don't fall for their games. You know, I play their games better than them sometimes, right? And more in general. All right, we survivors. Yeah, so yeah, we got to see all that, right? We got to see all the genealogy. People can say whatever. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. Like Umar, right? I'm this and that, I'm this and that, but he's never shown anything. So, you know, that's what we go off now. We ain't just believing everything we hear anymore. All right, UBTV's on it. All right, I'll check it out. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready. Head out to my little scrimmage. Enjoy some cardio work. exercise, have some fun for my spirit and soul to keep young. I hope you guys do the same. I might see you later. At least a short might come up later, but I am, I got some recordings here. Let's see if I can edit them out before the night's over. Maybe upload sign later on. But thank you for tuning in. I always want to continue the giant research. I always want to keep it relevant. I think this is very important. All these reports and all that. And I mean, how many more do I have to read before people get it? There were giants in those days. There were giants in those days, just like the Bible said. Appreciate everybody. Take care, guys. Be blessed. May Hawa protect you. Much love. Appreciate all the donations. Thank you for the longtime followers. Thank you very much. Pura vida, mi gente. Pura vida. Hawa. And yeah, that, by the way, shout out to Signs. He's in the chat. Or Chase for the outro. Shout out to Olmec. I believe that was your intro beat. Shout out to Signs. Let him know. Brother hooked me up with some instrumentals I've been playing recently. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for that. This is called Song 9 by Chase Holmes or Signs. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yo, shout out to Chase. Shout out to all the music producers. Love y'all, man. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Wow.